Ladies and gentlemen, now welcome. Welcome to Honor Politics, and now known as usual, ain't gonna be different. But today I will start off by taking us back to what 3 years ago, when Bola Tinubu had his 12th annual symposium. I think that should be in Kaduna or Kano. I can't remember the venue when he made that speech of recruiting 50 million Nigerian youths and we feed on cassava. Kabi corn, Agbado. I think that's where that phrase Agbado, started taking gaining stems. As usual, we focus on the comic aspect of the whole speech, which is Agbado, 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 Agbado. But that man said he's going to recruit 50 million youths. Now, that might be too much or whatever, but this is before he even became president. To me, I think there's more to that. Now, hold on a minute. Where am I going with this? Those with the Britain, the British people. I think a couple of weeks ago, Rishi Sunak. Let me see if I can get that. I think I even start with that. Rishi Sunak. I want to take the call that man name. Una president. He came out say Abiy is proposing to recruit 50 million youth. Sorry, under 18 to draft under 18 to their military. Making it be say they talk off my ass. Let's see if I can. Let me. Abi to make us recruit under 18. Under 18. I've been like 18 years old. Sorry, should be 18. Yeah. Yeah. It is now. So you can see my screen. All 18 years old in Britain will have to perform a year of mandatory military or civilian national service if the governing Conservative Party wins the July 4th, which is what's up with July 4th? July 4th is American independence too. Anyway, so July 4th coming up, so national election. If they win, bam. So Tinubu too. If he never say if he win, but it was a call to the president then, and now he's in charge. Follow my story. 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 This one. You as a recruit now. You recruit. Wasn't 18 years old, Abi. 26 into military. I see. Oh no. Yes. So if we now want go get more details, now see how I do. Just go on Google, type the keywords. It will come out, and you will read more about all these things that I'm pulling out. So that's your point. Now, the House of Representatives passed already a measure on Friday automatically registering men aged 18 to 26 for selective service. It was part of the annual National Defense Authorization Act, which set out the U.S. government military and national security period over the next fiscal year. Now, before you have to be like 26, right? Or before, I think between. But your point here that I'm trying to make, or where I'm taking us to, is that what is happening in Ukraine is not going to get any better. It will get worse. The same thing. So the world is changing before our own eye. So the question I want us to actually dig into is that where that's why I say Nigeria or Nigeria, where our mind even day in all this. Um,
Only the local government
right.
that must restrict itself.
So because if this brigade starts, what is going to be our gain? I mean, only our young men and women will contribute and let them go wasted. Because that is going to boil down to. Bola Tinubu will not hesitate to send 50 million Nigeria as his own part of contribution. You can say part of bargaining to come back to 2027 to actually get involved with whatever that is going to happen. I'm not saying 100% that there's going to World War III, but there's so much desperation among the superpowers that they are pretty much facing existential. America is facing its hegemony is pretty much shrinking. I'm surprised they are admitting it publicly now that they are they are expansionist. Russia is pretty much say, come with all these missiles facing me and they're trying to even put more in Ukraine. We are out of this place if we don't take any measure action. So they're also fighting for his existential interest. You can see how he's moving around. Then you go to the Gaza and Israel. The same thing. Both of them are claiming that come on, if these people there will not be free. So it's pretty much dead on. One of them must go. That's what they are calling for. Now, then the BRICS aspect of the whole movement, which is a great threat to the dollar, and as we all know, dollar is the number one export commodity of the United States of America. So you can see where both economics, every aspect of the world right now is up for what challenge, grab. However you want to, however position you find yourself among the power you want to grab, you want to get it. That's exactly how the world is going. And a lot of things is hanging on the election, incoming election. Which is Shinak is talking about the election. French is going crazy. Yes. It's pretty much 51% that French will get into chaos within the next couple of days. Like riots, strike, protests, or whatever will take over French. And there's just that possibility. It's coming. So there's destabilization everywhere. Where is Nigeria in all this? Election that took place in France and in South Africa says a lot about where they are going next. The same thing with India. So we can decided to focus on shit that doesn't will not help us. Kwame Nkrumah Kwame Nkrumah's speech resonates of 1963 when he warned us about today that the incoming neocons and whoever that is going to it's not going to be anything close to what our past generation experienced. It's going to be worse. If you think if you think they were succeeded in destroying, I mean, it is going to get worse. That's what that man said. 1963. Today we are. This is where we are. So where are we in all this? What are we saying? Especially our intellectuals, our elites, those in diaspora. Ever you are a Nigerian. Where are you in this? Are you concerned? Are you? I mean, because as far as I'm concerned, that's what dominates conversation across the globe. It's also responsible for how South African election turned out. So now only soldiers will contribute to the changing world because if I understand clearly, that's exactly what happened to us the Second World War. The only thing we contribute are men. Up to tomorrow, you go say, "Oh, I've had World War II, I do that." That's all. But in the midst of this chaos, there's realignment, there's renegotiation. People they grab. Rational man make it clear to us how companies are leaving China. That's not the news. Yes, rational man, totally agree with you. The question is that none of them is coming to Nigeria. We are not even grabbing. A chunk of those companies that are leaving China are going to East Africa. You go to Rwanda, you go to Kenya. These guys are they are it's as if they understand what tomorrow is. On the other hand, you can argue that Nigeria is has what it takes to position itself as a world hegemony or power. Not now, not in our life goddamn time, but in the future. That is why they know really, but I don't get it. So hopefully we have people who actually were paying attention to all these things. If you understand where this conversation wants us to go and you want to contribute, you can come. But I'll make it clear. If you come to tell me about how Fulani 90, I ain't going to listen. I don't have patience for all that kind of shit today. I don't. I don't get so. I feel make my own noise 2, 3, 5 minutes. I close my book. So, but most important thing, where are we? Where is Nigeria? Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I don't know if there's a conversation that is taking place in anywhere within the Nigerian sphere that I don't know about. As far as I'm concerned, this is where we are. So let's listen to Baba himself. Then we go.
Balanced budget. Sovereignty is that of Nigeria, and it is the only the federal government that sovereign power. I must use it for the benefit and development and the health, quality of life of Nigerians. That's why they are sovereign. It is time. We are under police. And we are competing with armed robbers and the bandits to recruit from the youths who are unemployed. 33% unemployed. Recruit 50 million youths into the army and the other thing. Take away from their recruitment source. What they will eat? Cassava, àgbàdo, corn in the morning, yam in the afternoon. It's growing here. You create demand and consumption. For over 5 million army of boot camps, we create our food. I mean, that's money for the farmers. That's consumption for the soldiers and skill development. Don't call them illiterate. So don't talk about illiteracy. Anybody who can own gun, who can handle gun, who can cock gun and clean the chamber and cock and shoot is technically competent to repair a tractor in the farm. Not when you can create a algorithm in a computer that you are technically competent. No. Those who are working on sugarcane farms and who can do so many other things and transfer key labors. Those who can do our cotton, not when you bring fabric from China, although you become a nationalist. No. I never.
Now, thank you, Mr. James. Now, yesterday link I posted. That's the new one out there. So the man laid out before us, but as usual, we go with the comic side. By the time they begin, Mr. James, Mr. James, can you hear me? Wait a minute. Don't tell me nobody can hear
Yes,
me. Oh, you can hear
I can
me?
hear you.
Oh, okay. So this was 3 years ago before he became president. Now he don't become president. When he was talking about we go chop agbado, we go chop, people were laughing. If this continue progressively as they are going, by next year, that agbado say we no go see and chop. That military recruitment, Nigerians will beg to go in. Go fight a world war, up whatever Ukraine, Nigeria will beg for to go in. But Mr. James, what do you think?
Yes. Can
What?
you hear, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, the recruitment he's talking about is not to recruit the youth to go and involve them in foreign wars. He's talking about recruitment to fight local terrorists or local bandits. That is what he's referring to. His level of reasoning is not going up to that level while he was making this statement. So we should get it clear. What we've said is in place. You see, before the outbreak of First World War, those who read history, European history, they will confirm that when Germany was the unification of Germany, when was it? Is it 1870? I can't remember. Anyway, Germany was not a united, a country at the time. It was made up of petty states. But with the action of, I think it was Otto von Bismarck, if I'm not mistaken, they were able to unify Germany, and that unification led to a number of things. There was
Sorry.
there was there was arms race, there was colonial rivalry, um, secret alliances were being signed among the European powers, and quite a lot of things were also happening. These were just preparation for the outbreak of First World War. So when on June, I think it's June 16 or June 28, 1914, the Archduke Ferdinand of Austria was killed by an Austrian, I think, Serbian student or so at a place they call Sarajevo. That was the last straw that broke the camel's back. You see, the stage we are now grappling with in the world affairs, these things have been piling up in the past, just like what happened in the First World War. Now, there's war in Ukraine. There is war in, what's it called? Please kindly remind me, I'm a bit tired. There's war in Ukraine, there's war in Gaza. In China, the Chinese are, they are ready for any military showdown. The problem of Taiwan is there. Philippines, I think, is also involved in this South China. There are a lot of tensions all over the world. Even look at South. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I say yes. I say yes. You are right
Yes,
with all your
good.
citation.
Now, look at what has happened in South Africa. The ANC, they fought the whites since 1912. In fact, the war started 400 years ago, but they officially formed that organization in 1912. They were consistent in fighting the white men till 1948, when apartheid was officially recognized as a state policy. They intensified the fight, and in 1994, they won the war against apartheid. Now, from 1994 till now, their rule has been marred with colossal corruption. When you talk of corruption, I think it's only Nigerians that has outclassed what is happening in South Africa. The corruption is very frightening, very monumental. There's a colossal army of unemployment. Now, to cut a long story short, the very white man the black men fought against since 1912 to 1994, these are the same white men they've connived with to form a government of national unity. So what did they fight the war of apartheid for? It's for nothing. They should have left the white men to continue with their system. Because during apartheid, the standard of living, when I say standard of living, I mean economic comfort and what people can afford, was higher than what the South Africans of today are grappling with. So if there's a military showdown today, like a world war, no African country can come to the rescue of Africa. South Africa cannot. Nigeria is completely out of the show. So a man like Bola Tinubu, when he's talking about what's it called, Agbado and all those kind of things, if you employ the youth into the military, in the first place, today military is not a military of Zobu Zobu Eyimba. I mean, you know what I mean? You need, look, in the US Armed Forces, from the little I know about them, the most intelligent engineers and scientists, mathematicians, and what are the astronomers, they are in the US Armed Forces. They have a policy in the US Armed Forces. If you are not on active service, you are highly encouraged to pursue advanced studies. Most of these guys are still working at NASA, going to outer space and returning and working at the modalities. Majority of them are members of the United States Armed Forces. So this is not the kind of army we have in Nigeria. So if there happens to be a world war today, I think the best thing for African countries to do is to pursue one or two policies. The first is what I call suicidal policy. They should just wash their hands out of the whole issue. Support nobody. If you want to kill us, come and kill us. That is
But
suicidal policy. No,
they
let me
can't.
the second one. That's the first policy. The second policy is, in fact, there's not even second policy because during the First and Second World War, all colonial African states contributed soldiers to fight that war, with the exception of Spain. Spain was what's it called? The colonial master of, what's this country called? Equatorial Guinea. Spain did not fight in the First and Second World War for certain historical reasons in Europe. So their colony did not contribute soldiers. But the sad thing is this. After fighting the wars, the European soldiers that survived the war, even those who died, they were handsomely compensated by their respective governments. But the Africans who fought on the side of a white man got absolutely nothing. Not even 1 cent or 1 farthing was given to them. Here in the Gambia where I live, there is a cemetery along Kairaba Avenue. They call it Fajara War Cemetery. That cemetery contains tombs erected in memory of those who died during the First and Second World War. So despite the contribution Gambians made to fighting the white man's war, the compensation they got was a war cemetery. The British government rewarded them with a war cemetery along Kairaba Avenue. It's still there up to now. If you want the photograph, I can send it to you. So this is the issue. We found ourselves in a very funny situation because this is what we worked for all along since 1960. Nigeria had the opportunity to become a superpower right now as we are talking, but the opportunity was squandered by men who spend all their time, money, and energy pursuing women, alcohol, and what have you. So this is how I see it. It's only a mad African government that will get involved. Even, let me cite one more example. When Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, Senegal sent troops on the part of the Western forces to fight Saddam Hussein. Some of the troops died in Saudi Arabia in a plane crash. How did they get in compensation? Absolutely nothing. So if my great-great-grandfather, whatever it is, died in Burma War, some went to Cameroon and died. Some went to Tanganyika, now Tanzania, they died, no compensation. Of what use is it for an African to go to Ukraine or Gaza or wherever it is, to go and fight a war you know nothing about? The war the Gambians fought during the World War, the Gambians they knew absolutely nothing about the causes of the war. Literacy level here was almost zero. In fact, it was in a village gathering that the British authorities informed the Gambian elders that Europe was at war. Then some of the Gambian elders told them that we've heard these stories you are telling us from our French brothers in Senegal. They've told us that the white man is fighting war, but we don't know why they are fighting. So despite not knowing why they are fighting, they packed the whole of them to go and fight the white man's war. They fought the war. They died in thousands. And at the end of the day, not even 1 cent was given to all of them collectively, not even 1 cent. Then the survivors that came back from Burma War, I remember that clearly from my readings in the archives. When they brought them back from Kobe Burma War, there is Fajara Army Barracks. They dumped them there and they told them to find their way home. Even transport to go back home, they were not given. Some of them, they went to their ancestral homes in Guinea-Bissau. Those like the Gomez, the Piera, and what have you, they went to Guinea-Bissau. Some went to Guinea-Conakry. Some went to Mali. Some remained in the Gambia. Absolutely nothing was given to them. So it would be sheer madness for any African to get involved in the white man's war. The best thing is to pursue what I call suicidal policy. If you want to kill us, come and wipe us. We are not fighting your wars for you anymore.
Well, I wish Mr. James is the president of Nigeria. I will have faith in what you what you just said, that we are not going. But we happen to have a president who prides himself as a deal maker, who is desperate to stay in power, who 100% pro-West. I mean, it's not just start from harm. I go argue that this administration is 100% Washington administration. Now, why am I pointing out all this? When when shove come to shove, Bola Tinubu will accept every whatever they say him to provide. Give us 10,000 youths. He will. He will not. I mean, there's no even choice. And now again, the people, like, let's hypothetically, let's say the war break out today. Oh, Mr. James, your network. Let's say the war break out today. It is going to be the West against Russia and China and the rest. China is already in our backyard. China don't dare. China is already in Nigeria. I say China, sorry. What's their name? Russia is already in our backyard. It's already in Nigeria. So I wish we are in a different. We have different people in charge of our affairs. As you rightly put it, Mr. James, that we had opportunity to become a superpower, but we squander it because of the people that we selected or imposed himself for us to guide us. And today we are back to where we were before the British. In fact, when the British people arrived. So I 100% with you, but just that I am scared. And again, when Bola Tinubu says she require 50 million, I agree with you that he's not even thinking about what is ahead. He's thinking about how to fight terrorism. But we are here now. Both the terrorism has not ceased; it's still going on. So, which is a very good reason to say I want to recruit. Nobody with the right sense of mind in Nigeria will say don't recruit when you've already started making your case with insecurity, and everybody is feeling it. So we are at the crossroad. But moment we just made all these indices that you actually put out, Mr. James, about what is happening in Gaza, Ukraine. Let's just hope that there is a consensus, there's an agreement for them to just whatever they are doing to pipe down. If not, I don't know. I don't know if Nigerian youth will not be caught up with all these things. And again, another strategy. I don't know. Donald Trump granted an interview yesterday. Very, very bad interview. When they asked him about all these things that we are talking about, the guy, he pretty much said, man, yes, there's no turning back. That's pretty much what the man's alluded to. There's no turning back. So I mean, it's scary. Uzo.
Ovie,
Yes.
everybody, good morning from here.
How about you?
Abeg, wetin your papa Tinubu is up to now? Because we no understand where we dey go for Nigeria again. So what is he up to? He wan recruit my children, make dem carry dem go Boko Haram forest, make dem kill dem. Abi? He wan pay dem 50,000, make dem carry my children go Sambisa forest, make dem dey die throway like chicken, and they won't even report anything. And at the end of the day, their wife and their family will be left out of nothing. Now, never wake up. Because if una wake up to want to solve this insecurity problem, make una ask America to come help una once and for all. And stop killing innocent people. You people can't do it because you have ended up putting so-called Boko Haram, repentant Boko Haram into the army. And now say I want solve insecurity. When we say una go send my children go inside forest At the end of the day, those that are in the army, they will be informed to go and tell them that Nigerian army are coming. They go wele them, they kill them. Enough. Those are people's children, for goodness sake. And who are those people sponsoring Boko Haram? So, una so-called DSS, their intelligence never reached for almost 10 years plus now. They have not been able to figure out those who are sponsoring Boko Haram. But they know how to go and find out about a 7-year-old pikin when he use him brain take collect how many million from a Zenith bank, which of the bank. And now they are debating whether they go punish her. They carry and go EFCC, make it carry placard. He said, make them go take that pikin, make them go educate and make it use that talent when they do that to take do something reasonable and come and benefit the country. Our mumu never really reach you. All the whole world that they go front. Now they drag us into 1940 something, 1950 something. Abi, let us continue. In fact, the reversal of your national item is enough to tell us where we they go and where we dey. Shame. Shame on all Nigeria. Especially those who are in the Western world that have seen what is going on and they are here clapping for Baba Blue. If I do anything to that my 7-year-old pikin, I don't know what I go tell una yet. Except una better use that in brain. Make una go develop plan. Make it take and do good in the area of IT for that country, Nigeria. If not, one of these days, they go so hack una also rock and they go put something for that una so-called president head.
Mr. James,
Yeah, hello.
to shine to actually what you started with is exactly what you went back all the way to Israel and tell us what the indices that led to the war. Listen to this. Oh.
If we don't have a little bit more common sense,
NATO hadn't actually encroached. He is.
is this going to get us all blown up? If we don't have a little bit more common sense,
NATO hadn't actually encroached. He is preemptively doing this. You seem very reliant on accepting Putin's worldview.
Russia, throughout its history, has always believed in keeping some safety from the West, which has repeatedly invaded Russia. It's good for superpowers to keep a little distance. The United States, they lied, they cheated, and they started the expansion.
It's an argument you've espoused on Russian state TV.
Yeah, I tell it everywhere.
Why are you not as censorious about Putin doing the thing that you feel so angry about what you say America's done?
If they took Ukraine as a member of NATO, we will end up in nuclear war.
President Putin wants peace, at least that's what he wants you to believe. The Russian dictator has, for the first time, outlined his terms for a ceasefire in Ukraine. He's demanded the complete withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from 4 regions, which are currently occupied by Russia, which it claims to have annexed. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, speaking at this weekend's Peace Summit of World Leaders, said he's effectively telling Ukraine to withdraw from Ukraine. But if Putin's real aim was to feign innocence for his apologists and score another propaganda victory, he may have been successful. Well, to debate all this, I'm joined by Professor Jeffrey Sachs, returning to Uncensored. Professor, great to see you.
Oh, it's great to be with you. Thank you so much, Piers.
We had a great reaction to our last debate, which was as lively and provocative as I hoped it would be. So I hope we'll get the same again now. I just want to ask you, this Putin peace plan isn't really a peace plan. What he's saying is all the land I have illegally stolen, I want to keep. Isn't that what it boils down to?
Well, there are 2 issues. One is no NATO enlargement. And the second is this territorial issue. It involves Crimea and what they claim is 4 regions of Russia. To my mind, this is overwhelmingly about the first issue, is about NATO, because that's been the issue on the table for 30 years. Territory was not on the table until 2 years ago, but for 30 years, NATO was on the table. I think the territorial issues, if I may say, are probably negotiable, at least in part. Of course, there's been a war going on for 10 years now and an escalation during the last 2 years. I think the non-negotiable parts of what Putin is saying, I would guess really non-negotiable, so we have to think about them, is that NATO will not enlarge to Ukraine. And I think Crimea is non-negotiable for Russia's core security interests and perceptions and history. So I think what's really absolutely core to what President Putin is saying is he would like to stop the war. He doesn't want to take over Ukraine. He doesn't want to take more of Ukraine. On the combat line right now, on the contact line, he doesn't control all 4 of these provinces, and I doubt that he would insist on that. I do think that he would hold out for Crimea. Almost every Western analyst and expert agrees with that, and there are many reasons for that. But what I do think is at the core of this all along was Russia, throughout its history, has always believed in keeping some safety from the West, which has repeatedly invaded Russia. And after the end of the Soviet Union in 1991, the US and Germany had said to Gorbachev and to Yeltsin, we won't expand NATO 1 inch eastward. But then, like always with the United States, they lied, they cheated, and they started the expansion. And then the Russians, I was observing this all along, the first expansions, which were in Central Europe, didn't come too close to Russia. And they said, we don't like that. You cheated. You told us no. But okay, that's Hungary, Poland, and Czech Republic. That was 1999 under Clinton. But then it just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. And they said with rising decibels and rising fervor, stop coming closer. And their ultimate red line has been consistent. It is Ukraine and Georgia. Why? Well, it goes back, Piers, to the British Empire, to 1853 to 1856, actually to Lord Palmerston. He had an idea: surround Russia in the Black Sea, render Russia's fleet in the Black Sea in Sevastopol, which was there in 1853, just like it's there in 2024, render it essentially inoperable, control the Dardanelles. This is a long story. And then Russia is a second or third rate power. And President Putin is responding to what has been a British imperial attempt for 175 years and a U.S. attempt since 1991, basically to surround Russia with NATO. And what Putin has been saying is, don't do that. Stop. Leave Ukraine as a kind of buffer zone. And Ukraine was perfectly happy with that, and public opinion was perfectly happy with that, and they didn't want to join NATO. And in 2009, they elected Viktor Yanukovych, who promised them neutrality, which was the promise that Ukraine itself had made in declaring its independence, that they would be permanently a neutral country, because they're in between West and East. They're in between Europe and Western Europe, or the European Union, and Russia. So they wanted just, okay, we'll be neutral. But then the United States did team up to overthrow Yanukovych in February 2014. And that's when this war started. That's when Russia stopped saying, well, we'll lease a base in Crimea. Rather, we'll take back Crimea. We don't want it to fall into NATO hands, just like the Tsar did not want Sevastopol to fall into Palmerston's hands. So this is basically a long, long story. I think the rest is negotiable. I basically think either the US and Europe don't understand what they're doing, which is not impossible, or they're still on what has been a 30-year neocon agenda, which I know about in detail, which is get NATO all the way to surround Russia, because that was the plan of Zbigniew Brzezinski and Dick Cheney and others going right back to the 1990s. They still want to do it, and they think they can still accomplish this.
Okay.
Putin
Listen,
did not say, I'm going to take all...
All right,
No,
with respect, you're given a very...
Now, Mr. James.
Yes, please.
These two men are now. Jeffrey Sachs is a tenure professor at Columbia. I mean, I can argue that Columbia is pretty much an arm of the U.S., one of the arms of U.S. government. While we have Piers Morgan, who is pretty much a mouthpiece of the Western hegemony for as long as I can remember. So you can see where the conversation started, and just like you gave history and what else part to where we are, and the same thing the man is saying. So what can you make of this conversation? We'll continue with it, but
I think this man from Colombia is a well-read man. There's no doubt about that. He summarized everything he said with one word. That is buffer zone. He mentioned buffer zone. The rivalry between the East and West, according to him, and I agree with him, the West has lied a number of times in their treaties they've been signing with Russia concerning demilitarization, arms control, and what have you. They see Russia's conceding to most things as a mark of weakness. I remember a book I read which says that civility is not a mark of weakness. If I'm having dealings with you and I'm being civilized in my dealings with you, that civility is not a mark of weakness. Now, you remember the Korean War, I think of 1950 or 50 or so. At the end of the war, they agreed that there should be a DMZ, demilitarized zone, between North and South Korea. That is something like a buffer zone to keep both sides on check so that there will be no unnecessary fracas. Ukraine has been something like a DMZ between Western allied countries and Russia. But the idea of Ukraine becoming a member of NATO is just like, I think it was J.F. Kennedy who was involved in the Cuban crisis of 1962. Good. It's just like Kennedy agreeing that Russia should come and plant missiles at Guantanamo, while it's just how many kilometers or miles from the United States. So the West has been very hypocritical in all their dealings, not only among the white nations, even among the black nations. They've been very, very unfair with Africans, the West. If you look at the history of the Caribbeans, Brazil, what Spain and Portugal did in those countries, is they live on the blood, on the sweat of other nations. That is the essence of capitalism. So I agree with the professor. I could not spot any fault in his analysis. It's making a lot of sense.
The conversation continues. I am happy that you alluded to what you alluded to about the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's called the Monroe Doctrine. When the U.S. come together and talk that Monroe Doctrine, that
that is the sphere of influence. Yeah, Monroe Doctrine. Yeah, you're correct.
Now let's North Africa, North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean is a U.S. sphere of influence. Nobody should come there to mess around. That is Monroe Doctrine. You are correct. now, just let's continue. It's as if you have seen this interview before. The way you
No,
actually
I've not
ahead.
seen it. I've not seen it.
Yeah, spot on.
Very long answer, but I come back to my initial question, which is ultimately, you know, I'm listen. You've been through a lot of the history there, and some of the points are arguable, but a lot of people I've heard express similar sentiments about some of the background to this and about Russia's concern about the encroachment of NATO and so on. But it doesn't change the fact that Russia illegally invaded a European sovereign democratic country, that it's helped itself to vast swathes of the land, and that latest polls show that the vast majority of Ukrainian people do not want to cede an inch of the land that's been taken to Vladimir Putin or the Russians. And yeah, he can say, I was concerned about NATO encroachment, but NATO hadn't actually encroached. So he is preemptively doing this. And if ultimately he's allowed to take this land, what message does that send the rest of the world, the rest of Europe, the other neighboring countries to Ukraine? Why should we have any confidence after Crimea, after Georgia, after Ukraine now, that he wouldn't just carry on attacking and invading other neighboring countries? That's where I find I wouldn't say trust, I don't think that's the right word, but you seem very reliant on accepting Putin's worldview rather than perhaps the stark reality of the barbarism with which he's executed this war.
Yeah, maybe because I know too much about the United States, because the first war in Europe after World War II was the US bombing of Belgrade for 78 days to change borders of a European state. The idea was to break Serbia, to create Kosovo as an enclave, and then to install Bondesteel, which is the largest NATO base in the Balkans, in the Southwest Balkans. So the US started this under Clinton, that we will break the borders, we will illegally bomb another country. We didn't have any UN authority. This was a, quote, NATO mission to do that. Then I know the United States went to war repeatedly, illegally, in what it did in Afghanistan, and then what it did in Iraq, and then what it did in Syria, which was the Obama administration, especially Obama and Hillary Clinton, tasking the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, and then what it did with NATO illegally bombing Libya to topple Muammar Gaddafi, and then what it did in Kiev in February 2014. I happened to see some of that with my own eyes. The US overthrew Yanukovych together with right-wing Ukrainian military forces. We overthrew a president. And what's interesting, by the way, is we overthrew Yanukovych the day after the European Union representatives reached an agreement with Yanukovych to have early elections, a government of national unity, and a stand down of both sides. That was agreed. The next thing that happens is the opposition, quote unquote, says we don't agree. They stormed the government buildings and they deposed Yanukovych. And within hours, the United States says, yes, we support the new government. It didn't say, oh, we had an agreement. That's unconstitutional what you did. So we overthrew a government, contrary to a promise that the European Union had made. And by the way, Russia, the United States, and the EU were parties to that agreement. And the United States, an hour afterwards, backed the coup. Okay, so everyone's got a little bit to answer for. In 2015, the Russians did not say, we want the Donbass back. They said peace should come through negotiations, and negotiations between the ethnic Russians in the east of Ukraine and this new regime in Kiev led to the Minsk II agreement. The Minsk II agreement was voted by the UN Security Council unanimously. It was signed by the government of Ukraine. It was guaranteed explicitly by Germany and France. And you know what? And it's been explained to me in person. It was laughed at inside the US government. This is after the UN Security Council unanimously accepted it. The Ukrainians said, we don't want to give autonomy to the region. Oh, but that's part of the treaty. The US told them, don't worry about it. Angela Merkel explained in Die Zeit, in a notorious interview after the 2022 escalation, she said, oh, you know, we knew that Minsk II was just a holding pattern to give Ukraine time to build its strength. No, Minsk II was a UN Security Council unanimously adopted treaty that was supposed to end the war. So when it comes to who's trustworthy, who to believe, and so forth, I guess my problem, Piers, is I know the United States government. I know it very well. I don't trust them for a moment. I want these two sides actually to sit down in front of the whole world and say, these are the terms. Then the world can judge, because we could get on paper clearly for both sides of the world, we're not going to overthrow governments anymore, the United States needs to say. We accept this agreement, the United States needs to say. Russia needs to say we're not stepping 1 foot farther than whatever the boundary is actually reached. And NATO's not going to enlarge. And let's put it for the whole world to see. You know, once in a while, treaties actually hold.
But there is an argument. Okay, listen, I hear you. I hear you.
Mr. James.
Yes. I'm listening.
Back to where I stopped for the question I asked you before. If Bola Tinubu is in any position to say no, if the West asks for 20,000 Nigerians, young men and women, to go fight either in South China Sea, Gaza, Ukraine, or as I earlier alluded to, Russia right there in our backyard. So do we have any leader today? Do we have anybody, or our elite or intellectuals, or we in a position to say no to when if it will actually arise? Because knowing that, sorry, Mr. James, with everything that Jeffrey just laid out, that you do anyhow, you see anyhow, they can overthrow you, they can change you, they can do. So with all this, do you think we are in that position?
We used to be in that position if it were an African affair. You got it? Now, when Nigeria went to Liberia, they went there without UN authorization. But the West, yes, without you, I'm telling you, with certainty. But the West told them that if you go and restore peace in Liberia, we'll see what we can do to refund the expenses. Nigeria went there without UN authorization. And at the end of the day, they were able to restore peace, and not one farthing was paid to the Nigerian government. It's like a 419. The Western countries played on Nigeria as far as Liberia is concerned. I agree with this man. The US has never been, or let me say the West, because they're all the same. The West, they've never been sincere in their agreement with nations. Now, they are saying that Russia invaded Ukraine. United States of America invaded Grenada during the days of Bishop Maurice. I remember they invaded Grenada because they felt that the government that was there, anyway, the government was not approved by the US government. So they went there, forcefully removed the government, and they put a man of their choice. They also went to, I think, Chile or Peru. And when I remember the name of the president, I'll let you know. It was on September 11. The CIA backed a coup, I think in Chile, if I'm not mistaken, to restore a man, to remove a man they don't want to be in office. So this is not, in fact, in Libya, as he rightly pointed out, Muammar Gaddafi committed no offense to deserve what he got from the West, just because they want to control his oil resources. Now, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana also fell into the same trap the US seem to be falling into now. In 1966, January 15, 1966, there was a military coup in Nigeria. Tafawa Balewa was overthrown, and when they overthrew the government, Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana approved the military government, said yes, that serves them right. They did that because of ideological differences. And in that same 1966, Kwame Nkrumah was also overthrown by, I think it's General Ankara, I can't remember. So this is just how the world is. The world politics is built on hypocrisy. It's the survival of, the gun is mightier than the sword. No matter how intelligent you are, if you don't have the military strength to back your intelligence means nothing. That is the world we live in. But what I'm saying is that no matter how nasty the world situation we get to in world affairs, if there happen to be another world war, it would be madness for any African country to get involved in the war. This is the point I'm making. Because I'm saying this because if you look at history of French West Africa, the French have been fighting wars for the Europeans long before they went to Iraq to fight for the West. The black men have been fighting the white man's war all along during the colonial era, unknown to us. If any African is to be involved in these wars of the West, they should make sure that is the individuals, they should bargain with the West. I am Mr. James. I want to fight on the side of US against Ukraine. At the end of the war, what do I get? Should I die in the war? How much will you pay my wife or my offspring? That is between me and those I'm signing the treaty with. But if you happen to put it in the hands of the Nigerian government, you are dying like chickens. Look at those who died during the Nigerian Civil War, either on the Biafran side or the Nigerian side. Who is remembering their families today? So if a war involving us in Nigeria, we were treated so badly, is it a war you are going to fight in, I don't know where, that the Nigerian government will take care of your family after your death? So left to me, the white man should reap what he has sown. Anyway, that is just how I see it. Any Nigerian soldier who wants to fight any war for any white man should do it on his own, not on the basis of being a Nigerian soldier.
Mr. James, with all pretty much all our leaders literally live in the Western world. They are all compromised via their investments, their family living, their own. Are we in a position to negotiate? Let's even go with
No, we are not in a position. One problem all African countries are facing today is this. It's the same problem the Arabs are facing. The problem is this. You will never hear an African government official banking money in China or in Japan or in Malaysia. These guys have also got good banking systems. All their monies is either in London, Paris, New York, or whatever it is. So if you are in the government, for example, they want you to donate troops to Iraq or wherever it is, and you are saying no, it's very simple. When you sign your check, whatever bank it is in London or New York, they just return your check and tell you your signature is irregular. That speaks volume. You know that something is wrong. So all their investments are in the West. They built houses in the West. They bought shares in Western companies. So their personal interest has overshadowed their interest for their countries. This is also the problem Arab countries are facing, particularly the late Shah of Iran. So it is not possible for any African leader of today to tell the West, no. When I was in South Africa, I remember something happened. The child of Margaret Thatcher, I think it's a boy, was involved in a coup plot. I think the boy was arrested in South Africa, if I'm not, or in Zimbabwe. Either South Africa or Zimbabwe, I can't remember where he was trapped eventually. He was involved in a coup plot in Zimbabwe. I think he was arrested in South Africa. I'm sorry, it's a bit long ago. Anyway, the issue is they could not put him on trial You get the point I'm making? Because the penalty for what he has done is very severe. They could not handle him appropriately because there are a lot of interests involved. I don't mean national interest, but personal interests. So this is the situation. If the West should come today and say, donate troops to go and fight in Iraq or wherever it is, no African government can say no. But the only thing is that they can only say no when there is popular uprising or fear of popular uprising, like in the case of Niger. Bola Tinubu, if he was not bluffing, wanted to invade Niger. But because of the resistance he got at home, he decided to backpedal. So it's only the people who can decide, not the government of the day.
Follow the people who can decide, not the government of the day.
No, the government of the day cannot decide. It's only the people. And it's only a foolish African who will follow his government to go and fight a war he or she knows nothing about. If I'm going to fight a war, I should negotiate on my own. Go to the embassy of the country. Tell them, I'm a lieutenant in the army. I have X number of years experience. I want to fight on your side. At the end of the war, what should I get? Or if I should die in the war, what is the guarantee that my wife, my son, my XYZ, there should be concrete arrangement in place before they recruit me and I go and fight as a mercenary. That is it.
Now, are you talking about people should go directly? There's already incentive going on, right? People are giving national, they are giving passports, giving whatever for them to, so that they can able to enlist in their military. Even Donald Trump actually was proposing as at yesterday that it doesn't make sense when people will come and school in America that you allow them to go. He's advocating that anybody that comes to America to graduate, either 2 years, 4 years, should be given a green card automatically. so you can understand. So they are doing everything to, and one can also argue that this has nothing to do with the war or whatever, but it has to do with the decline of the labor force, quote unquote. But just listen to Donald Trump when he was talking about this was yesterday, by the way. I'll play bit by bit, then we can.
Hello, Mr. President.
Great time. I love that house he has. I love David's house. What a house. That made the biggest impression, huh?
Thank you, sir. I heard you have a pretty nice house too.
Yeah, I have we're in a nice house. We like
Although
houses.
it's only worth 18 million, right?
We're like, I know, the judge said 18 million. People said Palm Beach has gone down a long way. Hello, everybody.
Let me skip and go to
Power.
Can I shift the conversation to foreign policy just for a minute, just to make sure we get time to talk about foreign policy? Is that okay with you guys?
Yes.
Mr. President, I've really appreciated your comments saying that you want to bring a peace deal to the war in Ukraine so that people stop dying. And I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment.
Oh.
But I've seen that Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, is talking about actually putting NATO troops or French troops in Ukraine as potentially a next step. And that could be a tripwire for more NATO troops coming in. Can you guarantee that no matter what, you're not going to put American boots on the ground in Ukraine? Is that something you can say definitively?
I would guarantee it. I wouldn't do it. No, it's different for France. You know, they're neighbors more or less. We have an ocean in between. It's different for Germany, although Germany is much less involved than they should be, and other countries. But, you know, we have a big ocean in between. One of the things I think is so unfair, David, I think it's terrible, is that we're at least $100 billion more than Europe, meaning Europe as a whole, put together. And the economies are similar size, believe it or not. That put together and us is about a very similar economy size. But it's much more important for them. It's important for everyone. You have to have, look, this would have never happened if I were president. Putin would have never done it. And it happened for two reasons. It also happened because oil went through the roof and he had all this money to prosecute the war. But the oil was at a much lower level, the price of oil. He wouldn't have been able to afford the war. All of a sudden, when it hit almost $100 a barrel, he said, I mean, he's one of the few to make money during a war because the oil has gone, and it stayed very high. It's extremely high right now, and it's going up. Oil prices all over the country are going up, as you probably have noticed. But
Yeah.
I will tell you, that would have never happened. Ukraine would have never happened. The Israeli attack would have never happened. And inflation would have never happened. Those are three big things. Inflation would have never happened. But with Ukraine, and now it's very much, look, Ukraine is now, I read the other day where they don't have the soldiers, they don't have the manpower, they want to use children, they want to use old people, very old people, people that are not really perhaps equipped to fight. They're not doing
the average
well.
age of their soldier is like 43 now. So they're they're literally running out of people. To make a peace deal there, would you be willing to take NATO expansion off the table if that's what it took to get the Russians and the Ukrainians to make a deal? Would you be willing to do that?
So for 20 years, I heard that NATO, if Ukraine goes into NATO, it's a real problem for Russia. I've heard that for a long time. And I think that's really why this war started. I'm not sure that this war would have started. Biden was saying all of the wrong things. And one of the wrong things, he was saying, no, Ukraine will go into NATO. That's one of the many things he said. When I listened to him speak, I said, this guy is going to start a war. Because as you know, for 4 years, there was never even talk of Russia going into Ukraine. That would have never happened. Russia was not going to attack Ukraine. As soon as I got out, they started to form along the lines. And I thought that Putin, maybe, look, he's a good negotiator. I thought he was going to be doing that for negotiation purposes. Then all of a sudden they attacked. And I said, what's going on here? But if you look at the rhetoric from Biden, he was saying the opposite of what, in my opinion, you had to say. The thing he was saying, and he's still saying it, he's saying things that are so crazy.
Inflammatory. Yeah.
I 100% agree. And, it turns out that the month before the Russians invaded, Blinken told Lavrov that the administration was not only going to bring Ukraine into NATO, but that they thought it was okay for the United States to put nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So no wonder the Russians hit the roof. I mean, you talk about provocation.
Well, let's say you were running Russia. You wouldn't be too happy. And that's always been off the table. It's a border. And it's always been, I don't think that they would have, if they thought that that was going to remain sort of a territory where you don't have NATO, but they don't want to have soldiers right on their border. They don't want to have it. It's always been understood. And that's even before Putin. It's always been understood that that was a no-no. And now you can go against their wishes, and it doesn't mean they're right when they say that. But that was very provocative. And now it's even more provocative. And they're talking about, I hear routinely, they're now talking about Ukraine entering NATO. And now I hear France wants to go in and fight. Well, I wish them a lot of luck. I think good luck.
Sir, can I ask you about Israel-Palestine? So after October.
Yeah, Mr. James. Now,
Yes, please.
I know this is a campaign period. What I want us to focus on is not about what he will do or the war will not have started by no, that's not. The first question they asked him, is he going to be put boots on the ground? Since France has already said they are going to be put on the ground, in fact, the NATO are going to put boots on the ground, which is what Putin is warning against. That any Western country that puts their boot on the ground, he doesn't have each other, he's going to strike. But he did not answer it directly. He did not rule that. He just said, oh, there's a big ocean between us and Russia. So it's not, that means the American military are not going to be on the ground. But they have NATO, which is pretty much, as you said, is pretty much not the same. The Western world are going to be there. Is that something we should be worrying about? Because let's assume he win the next presidency. That means there's not going to be ceasefire. There's not going to be that. Everything is just not going to go as planned. That's what I want us to talk about here. Not necessarily what you're saying about Biden or what he would know. That's not it. Mr. James, you said you are not even in our party, so you not even go that route. Go.
Anyway, while I was listening to him, I could not pick out, or I could not follow his line of thought. I could not read between the lines because I cannot just take his statements at at face value. I could not read between the lines what is going on at the back of the mind. Maybe because of his past experience in government, I don't know. You see, these guys are very funny. They will tell you, it's just like Babangida those days. they said, should we take IMF or we should not take IMF? He asked people to go and debate to keep them busy. After debating for almost a whole year or so, they said we should not take it. He said, okay, we are not going for IMF. This guy went behind the scene. I think he went to World Bank or so, I can't remember. They still went for the foreign loan. They plugged the country into catastrophe, economic catastrophe. So that is in the case of Babangida. This guy you are saying, they are not making any clear-cut statement, just like Bola Tinubu during the electionary campaign. Bola Tinubu never promised anybody anything, if you still remember vividly. It's not like Awolowo who said, I'm giving you free education, free medical services, full and gainful employment, integrated rural development. Bola Tinubu never at any time promised anybody anything. He never went even for the presidential debate. So these are very crafty guys. You cannot pin down easily. But this Russian problem, I cannot really predict how it's going to end. It's difficult to say because there are a lot of things involved which we are not seeing. And we also try, although we are Western oriented, in Africa, we should also try to see things from the Russian point of view. As I mentioned earlier on, if the Americans did not allow the Russians to mount missiles in Cuba, it's exactly the same thing that is happening now in Ukraine. Because there are some laboratories, there are some facilities in Ukraine before the war that were installed by the Western powers to monitor, to manufacture chemical weapons, very good, chemical weapons in Ukraine before the outbreak of this very war. And it was funded by the Western countries. So this guy, you cannot trust him. You can get there tomorrow and the whole Wahala will escalate beyond proportion. You get the point? If he's a peacemaker, why did he not withdraw the US troops from Afghanistan? You remember, they did not pull out during his time.
Yes.
And they got there before he became president. He prosecuted the war and he left the war. I think it was Biden who took this decision to pull them out of Afghanistan. So don't trust anything any Western person is telling you about their relationship with other parts of the world. Never you trust them.
Man of Prestige, welcome. I don't know if you watched that interview before now. What my question is, before now, at the earlier stage of Donald Trump campaign, he will say, if I become president, the war will stop the next day, right? Along that, not exactly his word, but he was alluding to the fact that as soon as he becomes president, he will stop. Fast forward to today, the question that was asked, is he going to put good on ground? I was expecting to come and say, you know what, no, I will stop the war as soon as I come to power. But the guy just pretty much leave it open. It's as if, just like Mr. James said, he did not withdraw the troop from Afghanistan, even though he made the war. Let's assuming he win, even though I know you know Blaze go win. Let's assuming he wins, right? One would be expecting that the war we had, he will withdraw the troop, just like what Biden did to Afghanistan. But it doesn't look like that. It looks as if this thing is going to escalate under Trump administration if it comes back the second time. Or what are you saying in that interview?
Okay. To be clear, about American policy and their imperialism, the American policy, Republican and Democrat, is pretty much the same. But I didn't follow the video or whatever, but what I can understand, the reason why, part of my own opinion from what I read, the reason why Russia invading Ukraine is because of their, closeness, and NATO want to penetrate in that area. And if you give the NATO, which is part of USA, to control that, you are very close to Russia, and Russia don't want that. It's part of imperialism expansion. Russia don't want that. I thought USA, to a more degree than Russia, because you are invading your territory. Okay, Ovie, think about it. If Russia decided, say they want to announce Canada, What do you think USA should? What do you think USA will do? Are they going to stay idle? No, atomic bomb or anything necessary. That's not going to happen. That's exactly the kind of intervention the NATO is doing. They want to invite, they want to invite NATO, to become part of their ally. But this is a country neighboring Russia, who used to be a superpower. So that's where the problem is. But going back to your question in reference to Trump and Biden, like I said, American policy is the same. But you asked me, would there have been a war if Trump was in power? I'm probably going to say no. I'm probably going to say no. And why did I say that? Because Ukraine, Ukraine wouldn't have the, Ukraine wouldn't have the power, wouldn't have the urge to go to war against Russia, because they know they have the backing of USA. Let's just call it a spade a spade. USA is NATO, and NATO is USA. Others are just part of peripherals, that are coming to be a NATO. So whatever Russia was demanding from Ukraine would have given them. They say, okay, we're not gonna go to NATO to become a member of NATO. So leave it like that. So because they know Trump wouldn't have backed them, and if America didn't back NATO, whatever America said is what's going to happen. So it would have been the way it is, because NATO, Ukraine want to join NATO, and that's the problem. Do you blame Putin? No. You see, so that's the two difference between Trump philosophy and Biden philosophy. They are totally different. Even at all, the American philosophy is, to be with NATO. They want to they want Ukraine to join. They want Ukraine to join NATO. But if Trump was in power, being that he's the president, that wouldn't have happened. Ukraine would have left it the way it is, and Russia wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. So let's call it a spade a spade. Yeah, as much as I don't care for Trump, there couldn't have been a war by now.
All right, I will start you with this one, but let's listen to this first. Still the same interview from yesterday, but this is about immigration and Japa people.
Country.
Mr. President, I know you're running out of time here, so we haven't had a chance for you to speak to the border situation yet. So I want to give you a chance to address that, because that's always been really one of your main issues since 2016. You wanted to build a wall. The Democrats did everything they could to thwart that. You built the wall, but then Biden left a bunch of holes in it and then sold off the parts for scrap metal. And now we've had and repealed your executive orders. So I want to give you a chance to speak to that. But one piece I want to just add in as a follow-up question is, a lot of tech CEOs say, if we fix the border, can we get more H-1Bs for tech workers? So can you address that as well as what's going on at the border?
Yes, so we built hundreds of miles of wall, David, as you know, and we're very proud of it. We did it as per specification by the Border Patrol. They wanted exactly the wall that we did, with the climb panel on top, with steel, concrete, and then rebar, and all of the things that they wanted to have vision through it, clearly through it. And because I thought about concrete plank, frankly, going up 40 or 50 feet, and they didn't like that. They wanted to have vision through, and I understood that too. I sort of disagreed with it, but that's okay. We actually brought climbers in, Mount Everest climbers, to climb, and we built a very hard wall to climb. It's a very effective wall. And we built hundreds of miles, and then we're going to add quite a bit at the very end. And we bought about 200 additional miles, and it was ready to be put up. Could have been put up in 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. And areas that were rough areas that were people coming in, because as you build the wall, they go in different areas, right? They go further out. It was so effective. It was so effective. Mexico gave us a lot of troops for free because of a certain negotiation that I had with them. You heard that. But it was so effective, the wall. But Biden, they didn't want to put up those slats that were going up routinely by us. That means you had gaps. You had, as an example, you had gates in certain area that we put up. We were going to put up big, powerful gates that we could open, and you could let equipment through, et cetera, if you needed it. And they got rid of everything. They sold it for 5 cents on the dollar, much of it, 5 cents on the dollar. I said, I can't believe it. And that's the first time that I said they're serious. They actually want open borders. They want an open border. Nobody could believe it. I couldn't believe it because I never believed they wanted an open border, because who would be stupid enough to want an open border? Look what's happened with an open border. I was very proud of that. We had the safest border in the history of our country, and now we have the worst border in the history of the world. We had a safe border. I had a remain in Mexico policy, catch and release in Mexico, not in the United States. Everything was so good. But the remain in Mexico was a big deal. Not easy to get, but it was a big deal. They were in Tijuana, hundreds of thousands of people. They had to be approved to come into our country. And now you look at what's happened. We've been overrun. It's an invasion of our country by people. Many people come out of jails and prisons. They come out of mental institutions, insane asylums, and we have terrorists coming into our country at a level that we've never seen before. It's a very sad.
I never understood why the wall was so controversial. You know, every country needs to have a border, and a wall is a really good way to enforce a border. I never understood why they were so animated about stopping you from building the wall after you ran on that issue in 2016. They held you up for years with litigation. And then, like you said, they wouldn't just finish the little pieces of it, and they left big holes in it. And I think you're right. The only conclusion is they want an open border. I mean, how else do you explain it?
They want to destroy our country. You know, the fact is, it's incredible. The big mistake I made, I should have said,
the ones without the ties. And we workers in this country,
yes,
we need to recruit the best and brightest from the world. Every time we get somebody super intelligent from India or Europe, any country, that's
3 of us
one
are
less,
immigrants, sir.
Yeah, and 3 of the 4 here are immigrants, the ones without the ties. And we can get these great people into our country, and that's a loss for our adversaries and our competitors, and it's a gain for us. But I've never heard you talk about this. Can you please promise us you will give us more ability to import the best and brightest around the world to America?
I do promise, but I happen to agree. That's why I promise. Otherwise, I wouldn't promise. Let me just tell you that it's so sad when we lose people from Harvard, MIT, from the greatest schools and lesser schools that are phenomenal schools also. And what I wanted to do, and I would have done this, but then we had to solve the COVID problem because that came in and, you know, sort of dominated for a little while, as you perhaps know. But what I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college, I think you should get automatically as part of your diploma a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country. And you know more stories than I do, but I know of stories where people graduated from a top college or from a college, and they desperately wanted to stay here. They had a plan for a company, a concept, and they can't. They go back to India, they go back to China, they do the same basic company in those places, and they become multi-billionaires employing thousands and thousands of people, and it could have been done here. And a bigger example is you need a pool of people to work for your companies. You have great companies, and they have to be smart people. Not everybody can be less than smart. You need brilliant people. And we force the brilliant people, the people that graduate from college, the people that are number one in their class from the best colleges, you have to be able to recruit these people and keep the people. It was such a big deal. Somebody graduates at the top of the class. They can't even make a deal with the company because they don't think they're going to be able to stay in the country. That is going to end on day one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I think we all wholeheartedly agree with that. Being in the tech industry, we understand the importance of that. They're telling us that you have to go to dinner, Mr. President. So thank you so much for spending so much time with us. We really appreciate it.
Now, let me begin. I'll come to Mr. Jim. That first part of the interview is talking about, but that more we ignore that one. That campaign. But let's that what they asked him about immigration and his response. He took me back to, I remember my first semester in college. Yeah, one of the debates that we engaged on in class, and the speech they showed to start the debate of was a speech by Bill Gates, actually making a case for immigrant and in Congress at the Congress. And the argument he was making is that it doesn't make sense when you have some of the best universities in the world that attract some of the best brains in the world to America. Then after they graduate, you just let them go and they form competition against you. That's exactly the point that Donald Trump is actually making to buttress his case that if you graduate from American university, automatically get green card. And they laugh because I don't know where I just start a campaign, a campaign promises, or it's going to work because Biden saying go forget debt, and it did. Again, China, whether we like it or not, in terms of production or not, they are leading AI, the future, they are up there. So is this a desperate attempt to actually bring people more in, or campaign promises? But most importantly, for God's sake, Nigeria will be empty if this stands. Nigeria go empty. People will look for money by every means necessary just to come and enroll. Because they know once they graduate, you pass, you become a citizen. So I don't know what to make of this. It's too bogus election period. Is this something that will catch fire in Nigeria and start? So what do you make of this, Mr. James?
It's an empty talk. Look, let me tell you, for two reasons. The first reason, let me start with something that's similar or related to what you're saying. Before this man came to office, the capital of Israel was Jerusalem. It was in Tel Aviv. They moved it to Jerusalem against world opinion. Most embassies, including the US embassy, did not open office in Jerusalem. They were in Tel Aviv. When this man became president, he moved his capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, this very man. But if you ask him about peace today in the Middle East, he's not, what he's saying do not tally with what this man is doing. That's by the side. Now, I remember the days of Margaret Thatcher in the UK. Before Thatcher, it was easy for all Commonwealth students, Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, Lesotho, Botswana, Nigeria, Ghana, and others, Jamaica, and all, to school in the United Kingdom. The school fees was reasonably okay. So a lot of people were moving in. It was Margaret Thatcher who tightened the knot. In fact, there was a time when I was a little boy, we don't need visa to go to the UK. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, they tightened the knot in order to block, to keep away immigrants from the former British colonies. Their industries, they have enough people to run these industries. In the USA right now, I want to believe, although I've never been to the USA, they have surplus manpower. To get somebody like Albert, or a group of people like Albert Einstein, or one of those terrible guys.
Hello, Mr. President.
Great time. I love that house he has.
Sorry, Mr. James. Go ahead. Sorry.
To get people like Albert Einstein to come and perform wonders, it's once in a lifetime you get such kind of people. So it's just empty talk. When this man comes to office, what he will do will be different. You saw the moves he took against the Muslims while he was in office. During the electionary campaign, he never mentioned those things. So what this man will do when he gets to office and what he's saying now are sharply contrasting. I don't believe him.
All right.
You want me to come in?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Sorry, man of Prestige. I will play that what he talk about the Palestinian after Mr.
Okay.
After man of
Yeah,
Prestige.
because
Go ahead.
I'm just going to be realistic, not because I lean towards Democrat or whatever, but I'm just going to call it the way I see it, judging from the antecedent of who Trump is and all that kind of things. Not just Trump, Republican, and we know that he has pretty much cajole Republican right now, but whenever anything has to pass, it has to go through the Congress, which is pretty much Trumpian. But House of the Senate is a different ball game, Okay, having said that, part of what he's talking is just a campaign rhetoric. Let me just call it, okay, just a campaign rhetoric, because he has an advisors that give him advisors, they want to pew some of the votes, because they know Democrats are very liberal when it comes to immigrants. The border, we know about the border, of course, right now. It's a little bit the last data that just came out, the border control has subsided about 25% because Biden passed executive order about a week ago. So he's making some, but I don't know about how. I don't know when it comes to Democrat, they are so liberal. I mean, I'm an immigrant and I would like to welcome people, but people need to come here legally, and otherwise, But having said that, that border is not just people coming illegal or something like that, They have a lot of criminal, particularly some of them are Colombia mafia or something like that, trooping in this country. So that's, if you look at the poll, I mean, it's not even close between Biden and in terms of border, So I mean, during Trump time, border was a little bit better than it is, right? It's somehow better. It's not like, but Trump tend to exaggerate it, like he pretty much curtail border entrance. It's not so. It's not easy. Even with the wall that he built, people were still coming, but you can say during his time it's better than Biden time, but it's getting better right now, I guess, because of part of it is an election, it's election campaign. That's why he passed this executive order. He's having an effect right now. But having said that, what he just said is part of it's a rhetoric. Trump, he's not going to do it. I completely agree with what Mr. James said. He's not going to do it. I mean, to a certain extent, the skilled workers, whether he wants to do it or he's not going to do it, America needs skilled workers. Tech, other high skilled workers. They have to have it, but giving them green card automatically once they graduate, no, they have to be a pathway. They have to apply for it. They have to go through the process. But I don't see, you have to apply. The process has to be the process the way it has been. You can't just get a green card. I mean, the whole world will be here. Particularly people like Nigeria, the millionaires, millionaires in Naira, we take all their money and come here and go to junior college. Even I thought they don't want to go to college. They already have degree. They're going to go to junior college and come here and stay here. Particularly the situation what we are in Nigeria right now, Africa as a whole. So that's not going to happen. And the Republican is not going to let him. As far as Republicans, we know they are very subservient to him, but that's going too far. So it's a campaign rhetoric. So that's it.
Mr. James, before you speak, let me play this video because my laptop wants to die. I'll switch to my phone. But after this video, then you respond because it's related to what you said about Trump performance in Gaza and Israel.
Sir, can I ask you about Israel-Palestine? So after October 7th, what's the right path to just resolve this once and for all and just move forward?
Again, it's so sad to me because it would have never happened. Iran was broke. They had no money. I sanctioned countries that wanted to buy oil from Iran, and I would have made a fair deal with Iran. I was going to get along with Iran. I was going to get along with everybody. We did the Abraham Accords. I think eventually Iran would have been in the Abraham Accords. We had 4 strong countries go in, and nobody went in since I got out. That whole thing should have been loaded up right now. It should have been full. They did nothing with the Abraham Accords that everybody said were great. They said, we're going to get the ultimate prize because of that. It was amazing. If anybody else did it, if a Democrat did it, they would have gotten every prize in the book, But I did it, and it was a great thing that we did. It was a phenomenal thing. But when you look at what happened now and you see what's going on, it's very, 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 very sad. That attack would have never happened in a million years. Iran didn't have the money for Hamas. They didn't have the money for Hezbollah. They didn't have the money for any of the 28 other cells of terror or whatever you want to call them. Iran was broke. I say respectfully, they had no money and they weren't given money. And actually, it was a big story when I was toward the end of my term. There was a lot of big stories that there was no terror going on because Iran didn't have the money. They had to survive. We would have made a deal good for everybody. Everybody would have been happy. The main thing is Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. That was my main thing. The deal was a simple deal. Iran can't have a nuclear, it can't have a missile, can't have a nuclear missile. It cannot have that nuclear capability. Other than that, we talk about everything. They would have been very happy. It would have been fine. And you would have had peace in the Middle East. The problem is I had them at a point where you could have negotiated. A child could have made a deal with them. And Biden did nothing. He did nothing. A
He doesn't
child,
like to negotiate.
a young man that knew nothing, or a young woman that knew nothing in kindergarten could have made a deal with Iran at that time because they wanted to make a deal. And Biden never took advantage of it. Now, they put back no sanctions, all of the different things that they gave him. China buys billions and billions of dollars of oil every month, many billions of dollars a month. Other people are buying. So Iran now has $250 billion cash. They made it all in 3.5 years. And now they're much tougher to deal with. And I will tell you, I got along great with Kim Jong-un. We solved that problem. Nobody was in danger. But this is a big problem. This is a real problem. And within 90 days or so, they're going to have and could have very well a nuclear weapon. And
Wow.
Israel is a big difference in Israel between Iran with a nuclear weapon and Iran without a nuclear weapon. And lots of luck in that negotiation. That's going to be a much more difficult negotiation.
President Trump, I wanted to.
Mr. Jane, one more before you respond.
Just shifting back to foreign policy for a moment, Mr. President, on the relationship with China. It's funny how Democrats and Republicans seem to have a unified voice and banging the drums on the rise of China. Do you think that war with China is inevitable? And if not, how do we avoid it?
I think it's not inevitable. I think it's unlikely. I know President Xi very well, and we got along great until COVID. Then I wasn't so happy with him because they gave it to us. I said it came from the Wuhan lab. I was right about that. They said then it started in Italy, and then it started in France. It started everywhere but there, but it started in China. And it was many, many millions of people died all over the world and cost the world probably $60 trillion, which is more money than China has and more money than anybody has. The death and destruction has been unbelievable. But I think it's high. If you have the right president, we can live at peace with China. We can do very well with China, compete with China. But we don't have the right president right now. He's not respected by China. He's being laughed at by China. And he's a Manchurian candidate. I mean, he's received money from China, his family. And that makes him, to me, somebody that shouldn't be negotiating. He's got a conflict of interest. But no, I don't see war with China as being inevitable at all.
President Trump, do you think
Mr. Jim.
that Fauci and our government funded gain of function research? And do you think we should really be pursuing the investigation deeply into that? And if we did fund gain of function research, what does that say about our government
Yeah, sorry, Mr. James. As I said, my battery don't go. So yeah, according to him, he did very well with Israel and what you were talking about. Go ahead from there.
No, this man is not a man of peace. You remember the first electionary campaign that took him to White House. He stand on NATO and other terrible things. It was, in fact, the world was frightened to death that should this man become president, it's going to be world war. Now, this is the same man singing a different tone. As I said earlier on, when Israel moved their capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, most governments of the world do not recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So they did not move their embassies there. The US embassy was in Tel Aviv. It was during this man's time he moved it from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Now, the movement of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, in your opinion, is it not annoying to the state of Iran? Is it not
Right. Yeah.
provoking Iran?
It
Is that
is.
the point?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
it's just a noisemaker. These are warmongers. He's a die-hard capitalist. The more war they fight, the more money they make in their industries, producing armaments, ration for soldiers, kits and whatever. I mean, my, vehicles, and a lot of things that goes with fighting wars. The war industry will boom. And directly or indirectly, this man is going to make more money from the operation. And the people behind him are also like that. So that is that. About this issue of building walls in the US and things like that, I see it laughable because not long ago I was reading a book, what was the title? The Penguin History of Latin America. How Europeans invaded the Caribbean, first of all. They were finding a sea route to China and the Far East for trade purposes. Instead of traveling through land, by mistake, they got to the Caribbean. They wiped them out of existence. From Caribbeans, they entered the mainland of South America. Brazil, they suffered unquantifiable suffering. What we call Peru, Guatemala, Salvador, Belize, you name it. That is exactly how Europeans invaded the North and South America. The owners of the country, they call them the Indians, or which we now call the Red Indians, they were almost wiped out of existence. These same people. Are you getting me? Now they moved from Europe. Now you, the black man today, you say you want to move to Europe, where they moved from. In fact, they are ready to use submarine to torpedo your canoe to prevent you from getting to their country where they moved away from. And where they moved to, where they seized the land from people, they don't want people to come and join them. So this is all the hypocrisy I'm talking about. I think Mark Eneli will understand me. It could be for self-interest. That is why they are hypocritical. But the policy of the white man is built solidly on hypocrisy, double standards. The standard they use for you is different from the standard they use for other countries. And one thing I've also realized is that the USA in particular, their policies remain the same, no matter who's in office. Their policy on Africa, for example, let it be Obama, let it be Donald Trump, let it be Biden, Caspar Weinberger, Lawrence Igobega, no matter who is in office, their policy on Africa remains the same. And this is why Obama could not do anything reasonable for African countries while he was there. And the same thing with their defense policy, their trade policy, everything is self-centered, anchored on hypocrisy.
Mr. James, you forget Obama did something for Africa. Obama invaded Libya. So
thank you for reminding me. Thank you.
We will not forget that.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
It's what a time. What a time though. Things are happening.
Well, that is the world we live in. It's a pity. African leaders, I don't know what their problems are. Believe what I'm telling you. I don't know.
Are they scared of being taken out, literally or politically? Is that why?
Their worldview is very different from yours and mine. What they are just after, particularly Nigerian leaders, money and women. You get the point? Is it not in Nigeria Parliament some time ago, somebody went there with his wives and concubines to show his manhood? I think you still remember. Can you imagine a U.S. senator going to the House of Senate with his wives and concubines to show his colleagues that these are,
as a potential president, so Mr. James.
Yeah, of course, it's a potential. So when he becomes president, What kind of man do you think, what kind of president do you think he will become? These are things we should think about. When you talk so much, they tell you don't criticize your country. But the issue is that they've already overrun us. You get what I mean? We're already colonies without knowing. Without knowing. We're already the white.
Yes.
They've
Yes.
recolonized us effectively. What is remaining now is for them to displace us. There are two types of
Correct.
colonies. We have colony of exploitation, a colony of settlement. In South Africa, it was colony of settlement. In Liberia, the American Liberians settled in Liberia. That's colony of settlement. But in our case, it was colony of exploitation because the mosquitoes prevented the white man from settling in in West Africa. If you, the white man is very injurious. It's very injurious to the human race.
Javier, can I contribute because
Yeah,
I'm going to watch France and Netherlands, but I'm going to log in. I'm going to log in and be talking to you, but I'm going to watch France and Netherlands it start at 3 o'clock. But let me contribute to what we are talking about. I'm going to still be on your DC, but like I said, okay, part of what Trump is doing is part of rhetoric. Let's call it spade a spade. Let's talk about what's going on with Iran and everything. Because Iran was already developing their, even with the ban that was imposed on them, they was already developed, nuclear weapon. So that wouldn't have stopped Iran wherever they are doing right now. All this ammunition they have already, they already have it. So there's nothing really new. What Trump is saying that the embargo and the sanction was going to deter Iran from, flexing their muscle. Or like what they did, in Israel, just flexing on muscle. So they never really mean to attack Israel, but they just send a message to them that they have the capability. So that's what that is. But having said that, I mean, he's making it sound like if he was in power, I already given him a credit. If he was in power, Ukraine and Russia, wouldn't have happened. That's true. But this one, okay, because of what Palestinians went and did in Israel, Israel would have used the opportunity because they have been looking for opportunity to go and totally, decimate Palestinians. And Trump is an ally of Netanyahu, 100%. I mean, I don't like what Biden is supporting them because they are committing genocide. But Trump would have been on a different level, like Mr. James properly stated. I mean, he gave them the Jerusalem. I mean, Trump, let's assume the way it is right now, Trump will win in November, and the war is still going on. Trump is going to give them a free will. Trump is not going to try to stop Netanyahu from doing anything he wants to do. Biden, to a certain extent, Biden has definitely supported them, because it's part of American, it's part of American policy. It doesn't matter who is in power. It's still going to be the same thing. America would have supported Israel. Whether Obama was there, because Obama never get along with Netanyahu, but Obama has no control about that. That's just American foreign policy. The war would have been there, Trump, the war would have come also. But the difference is that, there'll be no check, like Biden taking him a little bit. I mean, he just played to the gallery because of the election. So whatever he's doing right now, stop him for ceasefire or whatever, he's doing that. People understand, that's just purely American policy. I don't know why there's so much, why it has to be Israel. Like Israel is part of America. Is it because of the Jew influence? We can understand where they're coming from because that alignment has been there for a very long time. So all this what Trump is saying right now is just a campaign. It wouldn't have made any difference, and it would have been worse. The reason why I say it would have been worse, Israel would have just got there, and next the country. I mean, total decimate the whole country because Trump is going to give them a free will to do whatever they want to do. So that's a part. But anyway, I'm going to log in on myself when I'm going to watch France and Netherlands. Go ahead, Mr. James. You can carry on. Where's Mama Echo?
I'm sure she must be chilling somewhere. Yeah, you were asking me something about troops from Nigeria to the Gambia some time ago.
Yeah. They said Nigeria sent
Yeah.
about 200 troops to
Yeah,
Gambia.
what happened is that the Nigerian troops that were here, some of them have completed their term of duty. So they are going back home. It's a replacement of those who were here.
It's a replacement of the peace, West African
Exactly.
peace.
Yes, that's what I discovered. Yes, not that they are bringing new sets of people.
Okay. I thought it was an expansion of section. I was saying, and I mean, why are they saying we don't even have enough military? We don't even have enough security in that country, I mean, about 30% of the security are busy guarding private individual with money. So this is the problem with our country,
They were,
I mean,
those who completed their service were decorated, as I was told, by a reliable gentleman. So when they left, the new batch came to replace them.
Okay. See, when I read it, it wasn't explained. It wasn't explained that way. They make it sound like Nigeria is sending an additional troop to go safeguard Gambia, for Peace Corps or whatever. That's just the way the newspaper,
That's what the writer wants you and me to believe.
Yeah.
These are somehow, there are different brands of fake news. There are different types of fake news. They just color it to paint the government of Nigeria black. Anyway, that is what happened.
Yeah, I guess to show that we have, to show that we have military that is supporting West Africa, that we are giant of Africa. I guess that's the narrative that we can send military anywhere, because we still have the same style that we used to have, which is not true. We don't have that anymore.
No, you see, if we want to send military to anywhere, my point is this: we should send the military on our own terms. We sent military to Liberia. Nigerian troops died in Liberia. Peace returned to Liberia. Businesses in Liberia, when we talk of businesses, I mean multinational businesses, they don't even take Nigerians into account. Like mining of minerals, importation of rice or food items, or the rubber, I mean, businesses in Liberia, they don't take Nigerians into consideration. The same thing with Sierra Leone. I hope you get me. For example, there's nothing wrong if Dangote comes to the Gambia and set up a cement factory. There's nothing wrong if Glo or whatever, telecoms in Nigeria come to the Gambia if they find the market favorable. Although we have many Nigerian banks here. You get the point? But in most cases, when we send our troops to places, they just go there and die for nothing, and we come back home with nothing to show for it. Since they went to Congo during the Patrice Lumumba's time up till now, from the look of things, it's the same show. So I'm not in support of it. Before we go to any country, we sit down on the table, work out the terms before the troops will leave Nigeria. I'm not against troops, going to other countries to contribute in one way or the other, but in this world we live in today, nothing is free. There's not, even the air we breathe in today in this world is not free. Because from the taxes we pay, they use part of it to take care of the environment so that the air we breathe in will be pure. So nothing is free in this world we live in today. So that is it.
Very, very interesting. Okay. How is Gambia economy, Mr. James?
It's not as well. It's a question I will not be able to answer appropriately because the country is small.
Yeah.
Population is about 2 million or slightly below 2 million.
2 million. It's not even up to my state. My state now 4 million. Wow. I'm talking about Igbo state.
Maybe Oredo local government.
What? I didn't know it was that small.
Yes, it's very small. It's a tiny country. The job opportunities are strictly limited. Strictly limited. It's not the fault of the people because they don't have mineral resource. That is one of their main problems. Like all this gold, diamond, crude oil, you name it, they don't have it at all. So they just, I even wonder at times how they make ends meet.
So how do they make ends meet? Is it through tourism? What
Yes,
is
there's
this industry?
tourism, they have fish in their waters. Goodwill countries chip in some money to support their budget. In those days, I don't know of now, Nigeria used to help them in one way or the other. Then in terms of manpower, Nigeria is also helping. They bring a lot of Nigerian lecturers to their universities here in the Gambia to lecture at the expense of Nigerian government. And frankly speaking, I can't figure out how they make ends meet, how they tar their roads, how they supply water, electricity is a mystery to me. I give them credit for that. And surprisingly, 20 Nigerian naira is equal to 1 Gambian dollar.
Say that again.
20 Nigerian naira is equal to 1 Gambian dollar.
Mm.
Their currency is 20 times stronger than Nigerian naira.
Yeah, Nigeria has one of the less performing currencies in Africa.
So,
it was because it has depreciated. 50. I think it has depreciated 56%
the truth is
a
that
year.
there are no job opportunities in this country.
So there's no industry, any kind of industry at all.
Well, they have little industries like soap manufacturing industry. That's Ankosila soap factory. Then Gambega, they produce Coca-Cola products. They used to have a brewery, which they closed down. Water bottling plants. Those kind of industries. Then telecommunications, service industries, and
so what is the cost of living in terms of purchasing power with the ammonia and something like that? How does that relate? I mean, are they in a die-hard situation like we are, or not really? Or
no, the issue is this: like a can of Coca-Cola 33 cl is $40. 33 centiliter CL, $40. 40 times 20, that's 800 naira, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I do not know how much it costs in Nigeria. A can of Coca-Cola 30 cl.
I've been to Nigeria. I don't drink soda, so I never really tried it.
That is how it is. Things are more expensive here from what Nigerians are saying. If you convert the money to Nigerian naira, what we pay for commodities here is outrageous compared to what we pay in Nigeria. Most guys living here, if they work here for a good number of years, they can save enough money to go to Nigeria to build a modest house in the Gambia. Those who have employment here, but employment is very, very scarce because even their people are finding it extremely difficult to get employment. But I must give it to them. They are managing themselves.
Okay, apart from people like you who work in the school system in a high level area, what most Nigerians, what kind of business do they do there? They don't come there and set up a business. I can't even imagine them coming there to look for work.
No, most of them, especially the young boys, most of them had the thought of going to Europe by road. But when they get to Senegal and maybe Mauritania, they know that it's a mission impossible. This is the only English language speaking country in this part of West Africa. So they find it convenient to come and settle here. So when they get here, most of them do petty jobs like trading, motor mechanics, those with skills to repair computers, and those kind of.
So they are surrounded by francophone countries like Guinea, Senegal, Ivory Coast, all those countries over there.
The Gambia is completely surrounded by Senegal, except at the sea. They have 80 kilometers coastline. The whole country is inside Senegal, just like Imo State inside Nigeria. That is how they are inside Senegal. So north of Senegal is Mauritania, French speaking. South of Senegal is Bissau, Portuguese speaking. Southeast is Guinea-Conakry, French. Northeast of Senegal is Mali, French. The nearest English-speaking country to this place is Sierra Leone, which is miles away, kilometers away from here. So they live in a world of their own. They live in a world of their own. They set their own standards and they go at their own pace. Yeah, that's how they
All right,
live.
Mr. James. I'm going. I will come back. I'm going to watch me some soccer.
Okay, prestigious man of prestige.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. V must be busy.
Hello,
Yeah.
Mr. James. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm a network. I've been streaming.
Oh,
I
okay.
said, which news are you following? What's new?
Everything is new in Nigeria. The rate at which news emanate from Nigeria is very frightening. If it's not Kano, it is Port Harcourt, and that's River State. If it's not there, it's those states. A lot of funny little things happen every day. Anyway, this Kano issue, I don't know exactly what. You see, Bola Tinubu seem not to be in control of the situation. Can't he sanitize the judicial system? The judiciary is a problem to the country. I don't know what he can do to call them to order. You get the point?
If you do that, he's not going to win re-election.
No,
Judiciary
but
is the part is they play a big role for him winning the election.
no, you see, okay, no, you see, the system nowadays has been computerized. If a judgment is passed in Port Harcourt, they should feed it into the judicial computer system, so that a judge in Sokoto State can read it that same day. So that when they want to pass judgment that contradict each other, they will know exactly what is going on. And if possible, they can discuss it with themselves behind the scene. Although that should not be the case, but the rate at which they give contradictory verdicts shows that the judicial system has collapsed. This is the problem. Because the contradictory verdict is the contradictory verdict
Yeah,
that
I
is
mean,
the problem in River State and Kano State.
no, they know what they are doing. Now it's one house, it's one family, so the power is not coming from it, it's within themselves. What they are doing, but the only way Bola Tinubu to win 2027 is for him to chaos, or let's say for him to win, you need to at least win Port Harcourt and Kano. You have to win 3 out of 2. Yeah, 2 out of 3. I mean, Kano, Lagos, Rivers. You have to win one of these two. So at this point, Rivers is not under their control. Kano is not under their control. So that's what this is. So they will, Bola Tinubu, they will make sure there is no peace in those 2 states until the election, unless there's an agreement that yes, they will get the votes. That's what is happening. So fixes in the judiciary will not help issue. They know. It's going to be another, let's say another government coming from another party. Maybe that will happen.
Well,
But
I was thinking of something yesterday.
yes,
You see, the foundation of Nigeria today is built, the Nigerian edifice, the Nigerian building is built on sawdust. The foundation is sawdust.
Yeah.
You get the point?
Yes.
Will it not be better for the military to come and sanitize the system and we start all over again?
Well, the military, they've rendered them so powerless that the answer to the men is to they also want wealth, they also want money, they also want and they are getting it in surplus. So for what you are asking for is you're asking them for them to put that in a jeopardy. The men who are in charge now, I don't see them doing that. The younger officers who are coming, I don't know if they are that coordinated to do it.
Do you know of
So
any
both the
coup?
men in uniform and the men in Agbada, they are the same.
Do you know of any coup in Nigeria since 1966 till now that is organized by generals?
No,
I don't know. Well, it's longer left.
no. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. That the younger officers, I don't know how coordinated enough they are. I don't know. They are the one that can do it. But see, Mr. James, just look at the young people of today, my generation, compared to your generation, which in a way fit into the people, those young men that carry out the coup. Just look at the difference between my generation, we are focused on getting the money, just live life. However we get it, we don't care. So what you're asking for, I don't think we have the mindset. When I mean we, my generation, they don't care because the politicians are giving them exactly what is good enough for them to just live in that life that we are living.
I'm not
So that's why I don't have confidence.
I'm not justifying military takeover.
I get you, yes.
Yeah, they got enough time to fix the country, which they were not able to do. But
right.
The situation we are right now, I don't want us to slide into anarchy. That seems to be the path we are towing. Because right now there's no law and order. For example, if let's say my relative is killed somewhere in Nigeria today, who can I go and report to? Is it the police?
Nobody.
Or the military? You get the point? In fact, let me tell you a story that happened to me here. I went to a bureau de change to remit money to Nigeria. I paid the money and the commission, and they sent the money. My brother said he never got the money. So I went to the bureau de change. I told them the money never got to Nigeria. Then the bureau de change people said the only way I can convince them is to get my brother's bank statement up to date. That you send it to them to convince them that he never got the money. So I told my brother said, well, it's risky, but if that is what they want, fine. So I gave them their gave him their particulars. Then they sent something to them. They received it. The money was not there. So their bank agent in Nigeria, they contacted the bank, and the bank showed them evidence that they received the money. But there's no evidence to show that the money left that bank for my brother's bank. So the people apologized to me, and they refunded my money here in Gambian dollars. You got the point?
Yeah.
The money got to Nigeria, but the bank that received it in Nigeria could not account for what happened to the money. So which police station will you take it to? So that's the situation. There's already breakdown of law and order. A country where murder can be committed and nothing happens, of what use is it to maintain such a system? This is why I'm just thinking of a military takeover to sanitize the system. But again, who is the military can do it these days is difficult to predict. And they can even make things worse if care is not taken.
It's
this is what the Ghanaians went through in the 70s and 80s before the system eventually collapsed and led to the emergence of Jerry Rawlings. This is exactly
Mr. James. Now, don't you think when the coup happened, all the coups that happened in Nigeria, as at that time, there is the power hierarchy is very it was not concentrated in one place. What do I mean? There were people who had power and money in the western region that has nothing to do with the central. There are people who have money and power in the north that has nothing to do with the center. There are people who have money and power in the south, in the east. So that competition was there, and that was why when they could not agree, they had to go into war, coup and all that. But today, this all the power hierarchy from all the regions are pretty much in sync. They are in one place. They all get their
Yes.
money and power from oil. So that's why they can easily come to an agreement anytime there is disagreement. So what happened before, what happened in Ghana, I don't know, because the people who are supposed to be also maybe form one front and maybe take the fight to the power hierarchy. I also don't. Everybody just doing his own thing. Only the elite are unite. Don't
Now,
you see? You understand what I'm saying? Or
you see,
that's still can't stop it.
what I noticed in Nigeria is this. At a time in Nigeria, there was a group they called Kaduna Mafia. You remember?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
There was a school they called Barewa College in the
Yes.
north. These were the people calling the shots in the country at that time. But as time goes on, the country became politically and socially sophisticated to the extent that Kaduna Mafia was finding it very difficult to bring this under control. So they opened up. When they opened up, they admitted people from all ethnic groups to form the ruling class in the country. Though the Kaduna Mafia, they still have a very prominent role to play. Now, that group of people, these are the people running the show today. So if, for example, let's say the Oba of XYZ or the prominent people, let's say a man from Cross River State, if the people in Cross Rivers are rioting, they just call members of the group from Cross River. Look, you remember your son is the Nigerian ambassador to the USA. This one is the chairman of OPEC. We've given you your share. Go and control your people. You get what I mean? So
yeah,
that is how it is now. So all the traditional rulers, or not all, because I have evidence, most of the prominent men in Nigeria are members of that ruling class. And because they've got their share, while they are sharing the goodies, it is their responsibility to call their people to order. And this is the reason why whenever you and me are fighting, killing each other, you will never hear that there was a fight in Aso Rock. You will never hear that there was a fight in the House of Senate or House of Representatives. So this is the reason. The only fight I heard of in Aso Rock is between Obasanjo and Atiku. I do not know exactly what caused their misunderstanding, because I was not in the country and I was not following the movements in the country at that time. So that is just what I noticed in the country. And this ruling class, they are not the people controlling the military, the police, the Navy, and also the banking system, commerce, international trade, the airport, all the juicy areas. These are the people controlling the system. So that it is very difficult for you to get a soldier who will organize a coup, and he is not owing an allegiance in one way or the other to a member of the ruling class. So this is one of the reasons why the soldiers should not be allowed to topple the government, because it's going to be the same, it's going to be a continuum, the continuity of what has been happening. I was just thinking aloud when I was talking about military takeover, because the system needs to be sanitized. They need to sanitize the system. The rate at which we are going, we will get nowhere. And in 50 years' time, when the world has taken giant or quantum leaps, ahead of us will just be useless members of the human race. The white man can just come and say, XYZ states, everybody vacate it, and we want to take over. There's nothing you can do about it. This will happen.
I think that quantum leap has been taken already. I mean, we are not in the know-how of biotechnology, AI, or robots. So they came with ion technology and displace us. This time around, they will not come. They will just send robots and bots to come and displace us. As you said before, there are different type of settlement. So we are not going to able to see them to fight. We are just going to be seeing drones, robots, just being kicking. Before you know, all our electronics will stop working. Everything is so they've already taken that leap. We are just waiting for them to come and displace us.
You know, I read something very funny some days ago. The Nigerian government awarded scholarship opportunities to one African country. You know, one of the courses they put there, this artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
They said they should come to Nigeria to learn artificial intelligence. Can you imagine? A country that cannot fight Boko Haram. They are awarding scholarship to African countries to come and learn artificial intelligence. So I just saw it and I laughed over it. Anyway, it's a pity. If I don't know if I'd be wrong to say that we're already in the dustbins of history.
Yes, I agree.
We're already in the dustbin of history because the rate at which the West, their style of thinking, not even the West alone, Japan, China, Korea, their style of thinking is so bizarre to me that no matter the nature of problems they have, be it domestic problems, societal problems, or national problems, they have a way of just going. I don't know if it is mathematics they use or there's another new branch of knowledge which is different from science, which they are using. You get the point? If a white man today say he want to jump from a 10-story building and land on the ground safely without any attachment to his body, believe me, it's just for reasonable men to sit down, work out the modalities. You see the white man jumping down from 10-story building, landing down safely like a bird that is perching on the ground. No matter the kind of difficulty they are encountering, if they want to do anything, I might be wrong, but that's just the impression I have. Whatever they want to do, they just do it effortlessly, and they just get away with it.
Yeah, we live in their world.
You know,
It's no longer a white man. It's no longer a man's world, but a white man's world.
Yeah, when I was in the secondary school those days, if somebody had told me that I would be discussing with somebody I never knew in life, electronically, I would be seeing him on the screen, I would not believe. You get the point?
Yes, I agree with you.
So I mean, it's so funny. When I came to the Gambia some years ago, when I write a letter from here to Nigeria, it takes about 2 weeks for the letters to get there. If they reply me instantly, it's another 2 weeks. That is 1 month for me to know that Auntie Helene has given birth to a baby. Johnson died. It took me 1 full month to know. But now, in less than 1 second, it's just a matter of punches of buttons, I get the information right away. So I just wonder what the future has for the black man. And this is where Nigeria has disappointed the whole of the black race catastrophically. Nigeria is a disappointment.
What the future holds for us is that we are going to contribute to the world, the largest population of useless generation. A generation who are educated, healthy, but they are nobody needs them. The society don't need them. They are useless because every work that is meant to be done can be done by robots, can be done by AI, faster, better. So that's what the future holds for us.
I may be
Useless
saying,
generations.
I may be saying something. The advanced countries of the world, they might find a home in space. They might find a
And leave us
planet
here.
and live up there. Because you see, one thing disturbing them right now is this. The fastest moving object in space for now is light. Nothing
Yes.
moves faster than light. If the white man can invent an engine that is, let's say, 1 million times or 10 million times faster than light, 10 million times faster than light, that's the speed at which it moves in space, they will go far deep into space. And a lot of strange things will come out of space. And if they find a suitable home, they will leave us here and go and start a new life over there.
Mr. James, will they leave us here in peace?
No, yeah, they will leave us, yeah, excuse me, they will leave us in peace. No, excuse me. They will leave
Yeah.
us in peace for one reason. If it is
Okay.
minerals they want, if there's minerals they want, the surplus, the earth is just a speck. It's like a grain of sand in space. There are other planets in space where they can explore, look for minerals. Through artificial intelligence, they will know that if they go to latitude 30 degrees, longitude 20 degrees east of the Greenwich, in maybe Pluto, there is gold deposit there. Artificial intelligence can detect these things in future. So they can go to any planet, send robots there, mine the minerals, transport it to the other parts of the universe where they are living. They will just forget us completely. The earth will be of no use to them. Believe me. They will leave us in peace. Because the technology that can create a home in space can solve a lot of problems, which we are unable to handle now. It's very possible. They will leave us in peace. They will just neglect us. Occasionally, they will just come on tourism. Let us go and visit our, should I say, brothers in space or something like that. Then when they come, we welcome them. How is your home? This, that, so, something like that. That's what I'm foreseeing. It might not happen in my lifetime, but it's a possibility.
I see what you are saying.
we look like
So okay. If they leave us in peace, what can we make of the head? What do you think our life is going to become? Are we going to improve, or what do you think we will do?
we will not improve. It will be very
Or we'll fight
brutal.
ourselves.
We'll fight
We'll kill ourselves.
we fight ourselves for one reason. You see, those that have left us, we see them as superior members of the human race. Then our bourgeois here, they will now see themselves as superior members of the earthly race. They will now start behaving the way Americans and others are behaving now. That is what I'm foreseeing. It does not mean that we will live in peace. We will not live in peace. Certainly not.
Wow. It's scary that the way what we are just talking casually might literally be our reality tomorrow.
No, it's likely to be, although it's a remote possibility, because when I was in the primary school, if they tell me that man will go to the moon and come back safely, even bring rocks from the moon, I will not believe as a little boy. Even my father then will not believe. But in 1969, was it July, so I can't remember, the Apollo 11 went to the moon. Armstrong and his men, they landed safely. They carried out their little experiments, brought samples of rock, and returned to Earth. My friend, that is a gateway to so many things to come in future. Those people open the gateway. You get what I mean? And one thing again is this. One thing again is this. This problem we call death will be conquered. Death will be conquered. It's just advances in medical science.
Yes.
Why I believe it is this. At the beginning of last century, as I was saying somewhere, if you talk of brain surgery, people will tell you it's not possible. Heart transplant, kidney transplant, liver transplant, pancreas, and what have you. They'll tell you it's not possible. But today, these are very common things. Even test tube babies. Well, if you want to deliver a child, a man must meet a woman, you make the woman pregnant for 9 months, then the woman will deliver. Now it is possible for a woman to deliver without meeting a man. You get the point? So advances in medical sciences is likely to solve this problem of death. And once death is conquered, that is where we black people will know what life really is.
So that's why when I listen to our news, our leaders, like these people actually they don't do. And we are we living in the same space?
Yeah, we are living we're living in the same space, but in a different world. The world of the Africans is different from that of the other parts of the globe. You see, I will not say that I cannot put the whole blame on the white men, believe me. Because this book I told you earlier on I was reading, I've not finished reading it. Penguin History of Latin America. You see the South Africa, sorry, I said South Africa, South Americans. We went through the same process. I mean, in fact, theirs was even worse because they exterminated them. The kind of diseases like smallpox, chickenpox, and others, the white men introduced there, most black people were able to withstand it because of our environment. Yeah, and the mixed, the what's it called, mixture, I mean, what's it called, intermarriages, you know, procreation. There are many races, 3 or 4 races in South America today. You have the Indian race, the Spaniards, the blacks, and the racial composition is mixed over there. And despite the mixture, they are able to forge, they're able to make reasonable progress compared to we in Africa. Take the Brazilians, for example. I think somebody told me that they started producing fighter planes and submarine warships in Brazil. That is where we exported most of the slaves from West Africa to work on sugarcane plantation. You get the point? So what are we really doing back home? If it is the white man that is responsible for our backwardness, what about the Brazilians, the people of Argentina and other places that are taking giant strides towards industrialization? How do we reconcile these contradictions? So it's so pitiful indeed, but what can we do when our leaders refuse to be reasonable?
And it's just it's a sad situation. And you just think of what is going around the world and where and what we are concerned about. It's just sad. It's sad. And we think we are more exposed, more educated, whatever. But it's as if
At this stage of our development, we are still running after women. That is one thing that baffling me. Our leaders are still running after women at this stage of our development. And these are highly educated people, only master's, PhD degrees. We are still running after women, alcohol. When the white man came to West Africa, they came with gin. The illiterate kings of those days were selling Africans in exchange for jeans and clothes and things like that. And it is the same thing that is still going on up to today. Those we sold into slavery are more organized than us who sold them into slavery. So what are we up to? Anyway,
it's a sad situation.
it's more than sad. So it's getting, it's getting to 8 o'clock now in the Gambia. I have to go home.
Thank you, Mr. James. It's Friday
Thank you
here
for,
too. I think
thank you
yeah.
for thanking me. Thank you for thanking me.
You're welcome, Mr. James.
How is Dr. Damages?
Dr. Lamage is fine. I haven't spoke to him in maybe a week or so. I believe it's, but I
Okay.
think they are coming up online. I saw them put up a show. So, but I think
Oh,
yeah.
tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's tomorrow or today. I saw they want to talk. Yeah, but for sure they will come online tomorrow and let's see. But
Well,
I don't know
this
if he's
morning,
going to be there. But
this morning while I was coming to work, I met a gentleman who recognized me. He said we'll be meeting on a damages show.
in Gambia,
Yes.
that's interesting.
Yeah, he had just arrived. He's working with the hospital. He read the medical technology somewhere in Akwa Ibom or somewhere in the east. I was very
Wow.
surprised when I saw him. I thought he's one of my students. So I was trying
Yeah.
to talk with him. While I was joking with him, he was not responding appropriately. Then I had to ask him, where do you know me? He said on Dr. Damage's show. I was very surprised. So we are now two
Interesting.
in the Gambia on that show, on that platform.
Right. Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, thank
James.
you so much indeed. So I hope to see you
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll come on tomorrow. I'll come on for sure.
At what time?
I'll be free tomorrow. I'll either at the same time or earlier than today. But
Okay,
I'll be free
okay.
tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow is Saturday. I'll be free throughout.
Saturday.
I'll be with you. Thank you.
Oh, okay. You're welcome.
All right, man. Good night.
Night. Oh, it's Friday, yo. I don't know where I be for that side. My one is that street. Mr. Man of President, Mama J. Which one are they? Let me play this. Yeah.